My next guest is coming off a nice win this past weekend over Andrea Lee at UFC San Antonio. It's Maycee Barber back here on the program. Maycee, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing awesome. Where are you headed to? I know you're in the car today. You probably got a lot of
Yeah.
things going on now that camp's over. What are you up to right now?
I actually am just now leaving the gym. I went and did conditioning and then watched sparring. Um, so I'm headed home now.
There you go. Right back in the gym. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where does this win rank in terms of career highlights? Because, Andrea was a ranked opponent. She was pretty notable in the division. Where would you put this win in terms of your career highlights?
I mean, every win is important, for me, it's just a matter of just showing the improvements in camp and in all of my fights. So, obviously every opponent that I face, like they're going to get tougher and they're also going to be, new opportunities for me to showcase all that I've learned and evolved in. And so just they're one of those like fights where I wanted to finish, but she's a tough girl, and I feel like we put on a really fun fight, and I'm really happy about that.
Was there anything unexpected in the fight? I know you prepped very well for her. I know there's a lot of familiarity with Andrea just in terms of, she's been in the UFC for a while. She was in LFA. But, looking back, was there something in the fight that maybe you weren't expecting?
Honestly, we thought that we were going to be the ones to want to wrestle and she was going to be the one who wanted to strike. And it was kind of like the opposite way around. I was piecing her up on the feet and then she wanted to take me down, which is understandable. And she got those, I overcommitted on a lot of my punches and I definitely have to go back and work on that. But I think that surprised me. And then the fact that like, not only did she take me down, but she took me down in order to try and like hold me and stop me from doing, from bringing the fight. And so it was a little bit more frustrating because obviously I want to go out there and I want to have a great fight and I want to have an exciting fight and I want to have one that's like, I'm trying to finish you. And it was a little bit frustrating with the fact that I'm like, I can't move on the ground. So I was just trying to find out ways to cause damage even from the bottom. And I just wish a little bit that she had tried to like, once taking me down, try to like do a lot more damage with it, which would have probably caused a lot more openings for me to scramble up and for us to have some good scrambles. But I mean, she did what she needed to do, and I did what I had to do to come out of there with a win. So a little of that kind of threw me off a little bit, but in the day, I mean, a fight is a fight, and you never have like an exact plan on where you want it to go or what you want to do with it. So at the end of the day, the goal is just to win. So that's what we went out there to do.
What was going through your head when it went to the judges, just because of the fact that Andrea's originally from Texas? We had some weird decisions earlier in the night. When you heard the one judge give it to her, what's going through your head at that point?
I mean, I was confident, I'm never going to, until I'm outside of that cage, I'm never going to let my mindset drop and be negative, because at the end of the day, like, I put in so much work for this and I went out there and did everything I possibly could to try and win that fight. And so, I did what I needed to do. And I felt that, as long as you do that, like there's no doubts in my mind. I knew that I did all the damage. I think she hit me like once, maybe, obviously my nose.
Mm-hmm.
So my nose was bleeding. I was a little frustrated because like I've never had my nose bleed before. But I did all the damage, even when she took me down, I did all the damage. So I was confident in the fact that, I won that fight based off of damage. And I'm really happy that, the judges are evolving and they're scoring in the way of the fight. It's not just about, can you take someone down, but it's like, what are you going to do with that takedown? What are you going to do? Are you going to cause damage? And she didn't cause the damage. I was the one doing the damage, even though I was on the bottom. So, yeah, I think that overall it was, I was really happy with the decision and I was really happy with the win. Obviously I wanted that finish, but didn't go that way.
Well, you got the win anyways, and you're on a nice win streak right now. I know after the fight there was talk about Alexa Grasso because you two have fought. She's the new champ. We'll talk about that in one sec. But when you and I did our interview right when this fight was announced, you mentioned about the possibility of maybe going back down to 115. Is that still on the table, or are you pretty set on staying at 125 with this win streak?
I would love to go back down to 115, but my body and all women, like female bodies, are just they're a mystery. Like we're still trying to figure it out. I had a bit of health issues, before my fight with Jessica. I had my cycle for like 30 something days straight. And then after that I got COVID, and then I got sick again. And so I was sick like 2-3 times between Jessica and this fight. So obviously I would love to go back down to 115. At the end of the day, like, it'll probably still be a goal of mine. But I still am fine with fighting at 125. I'm happy there too. For the most part, I just want to fight,
Yeah.
So it's wherever my body's healthy. I'm not going to force anything if it's not going to work at the moment. I'd rather just be healthy and fight. So if that's fighting at 125, then that's fighting at 125 and working my way down to 115 someday, or maybe never,
Yeah.
But I would have loved to fight at 115 again for sure.
So I mentioned Alexa Grasso. She is the new champ. Going into that fight with Valentina, who did you think was going to win that? And just your thoughts on Alexa being the first fighter to finish Valentina in the UFC.
For me, I wasn't going to be surprised if Alexa had won that fight. She is a great fighter. I think she's probably one of the most, like, I don't know if I would say underrated, but like one of the most overlooked. Like she puts her head down, she works hard. And she's got a lot of talent and abilities. And I did go in there thinking, if one person or two people were to beat Valentina, I've said it multiple times, it was Tyler Santos and it was Alexa Grasso. So I also think that Valentina started to have some holes exposed in her game. And I think that Alexa, obviously, she was able to capitalize on it. When it comes back to like going back into a rematch, I think it could go either way, because Valentina is also such a dominant champion that we could go back and she could win that fight again. I wouldn't put it past either one of them to have a win, and to win that fight. So I don't think it would go like, 10 out of 10 times Alexa wins or 10 out of 10 times Valentina wins. I think it can go either way, So I think we will see a rematch for sure, obviously, because anytime the champ loses their belt, they're going to give a rematch. So I think that's the fight that's going to happen first. And for me, I said it multiple times, I would love to fight Alexa, whether she has the belt or not. So
right.
It's not necessarily, I want a title shot right now. My goal is to have that fight back someday, whether she has the belt or not. And that's just because, I want to get that win back, because I feel like when I go back to fight her again, I will win that fight.
How did you have that fight scored before the finish? I spoke to Valentina earlier this week. She felt like she won all the rounds. Some people feel like maybe it was going Alexa's way. How did you, I don't know if you just remember, I know it was like a month ago, but who did you have on the scorecards going into that fourth round?
It's actually hard to recall because I was so deep into my camp that I'm just like, I don't know. But I do
no worries.
remember,
No, I get it. I get it. You got your fight coming up.
Yeah. I do remember thinking that it was a pretty close fight, and that obviously, I thought that Valentina, I think I remember having Valentina initially, but I mean, she got it, Alexa got it and she did really well. But I never once counted her out of the fight, if that makes sense. Like there was never a moment where I was like, oh yeah, Valentina's got this all the way through, Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. How would a rematch with you and Alexa play out now? Because obviously you both have grown since that fight. You've been on this nice win streak. Alexa obviously has the title now. How would a rematch play out in your opinion, stylistically?
I think it'd be great. I've evolved so much in my game, and I've had a lot of changes. Obviously I moved camps and I've switched, and I've been on a 4 or 5 win streak since that fight. And I just think that, I'm not, like I've said before, I'm never going to make any excuses. I think that Alexa is a phenomenal fighter, and I lost that night. But for me, that's a fight that I'm like, I got to get that back, because I know what I'm capable of. I know, my mentality and how I walked into that fight. That was the only fight I've ever walked into mentally, just like feeling like, oh man, I could have done so much more if this was different, And again, no excuses, because I was training. But it's one of those where I'm like, I'm confident going into that fight that I would get my hand raised.
So what is next? Because it looks like they are going to probably do Alexa and Valentina next. There's a few other opponents out there. Just kind of looking at the rankings right now, where you're ranked, you've got sort of, Amanda Ribas, Jennifer Maia, Lauren Murphy. Any of those names interest you? Do you sort of have your eye on who could potentially be next?
There's a few, but the moment, I haven't sat down to actually make have a conversation with Mick and Hunter and Dana, because, obviously I want to make sure that I'm 1000% healthy before I just, start talking about opponents. But I mean, there's a few different fights that I would love to have, and Lauren Murphy would be a great one. All of those would be a great ones, but, I want to have a conversation with them and say, what's the plan to get back? Yeah, I think that talking with them first would be a smart move on, making a game for who's next to get me to the next spot that I want to get to. And like I said before, the end goal, or right now, the goal would be to work my way up to a rematch. So as long as I'm healthy, and which I am, just got to get a couple scans, we'll be ready to go and have a call out.
And in terms of your, like, when you want to fight next, I guess you got to get all the tests done and everything, and then see when kind of would be the best time to go. Or do you have an idea right now when you want to have your next fight?
I wanted to fight one more time before I turn 25, which is in May. So I was considering, again, all things get cleared. I wouldn't mind a really fast turnaround, 5-6 weeks,
Okay.
or something like that. Or maybe in like May, June.
One of the opponents I just mentioned there, Jennifer Maia, defeated Casey O'Neill, someone I know you were kind of linked to as a possible opponent. What did you make of her performance, and were you expecting that? Because I think Casey was actually the favorite going into the fight.
I know that Casey she's a good fighter. Jennifer Maia, also a great fighter. I think Jennifer Maia, just for me, I guess I didn't have a lot of expectations, not saying that, Casey's not going to come out great. I just don't have a lot of expectations because I know the significance of the injury and the significance of a return fight coming back, for that, so whether it's a win or a loss, I mean, I don't mean to like say, it's okay to it's okay to lose or it's okay to win, but like my thoughts are the fact that, someone like that, you can come back from an injury like that and just even be in the cage, I think is a victory in itself. So I didn't put a whole lot of expectations in that fight. And Jennifer Maia she's not an easy opponent, she's not just like an easy out. So to me, it was just, it was just another fight that I was just like, it could go either way. I would have loved, obviously, would be cool to see someone come off an injury and have a win. But at the same time, I mean, like, she's going to evolve and she's going to grow, and like, same thing. Like, I had a comeback fight, a loss, and now I'm on a 4-fight win,
And just, yeah, no, absolutely. And just one more fight I wanted to ask you about in the division. Someone we talked about in our last interview, Erin Blanchfield, defeated Jessica Andrade pretty impressively. What did you make of that win? Because I know last time we spoke, you kind of felt like the UFC was sort of giving her opponents that were tailored to her style, but Andrade, I think, a much tougher outing.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, I definitely said that about Molly, and I think who'd she fight? Who else did she fight? Miranda.
JJ Aldrich.
And JJ Aldrich. Yep. So she fought all three of those girls, and the fight with Andrade, Andrade is tough. I do think that was a great style matchup for Erin, because Erin moved a lot. She was moving, and then she was able to get the takedowns, and I just kind of odds forward, and she just worked forward. And she totally turned and just gave up her neck, and it was like, that just really felt like a you should know better kind of move. But at the same time, Andrade, I think, took that fight on like 4 days notice. So I know Valent said it as, I think it would be a different fight if she had a full camp, but at the same time, we can't take away the skill of Erin Blanchfield. She has a solid ground game, and she's a solid fighter. She doesn't have just a solid ground game, she's got a solid stand-up game too. So we're gonna take it from that. But at the same time, I mean, like, yeah, 4 days notice, and she was 150, she moved up. So I don't know. It is what it is. She won.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I just think that's a fight that will probably happen with the two of you at some point, I would think, right? So I'm sure that's, kind of keeping tabs on who's doing what in the division, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that at some point, I mean, obviously she's young, I'm young. We're both gonna at some point meet up. Um, but I think for me, like my goals are I want to rematch. My goals are I want to continue to move up. Obviously, I'm going to continue to move up either way. But I think that for the sake of the marketability, I think that having a main event and having a title fight between one of the two of us, would be really cool. So,
What do you got
yeah.
planned the rest of the week? We're just out of obviously this big fight, big training camp. What are you doing? Are you staying in California? Are you going to go see your family? What are you up to?
A little bit of both. I'm back home now. I'm training. I do have a couple of little trips planned. My niece is turning 1, so I'm gonna fly out to Colorado and visit. Um, Other than that, I'm just back in the gym. I really want to stay consistent, and if I'm healthy, I want to fight and I want to train and I want to get better and I want to evolve. So that's what I'm gonna do.
Is there anything during camp that you kind of neglect that now because you don't have a fight coming up that you get to? Like whether it's like, I don't know, watching some TV or something. Like, is there anything you kind of have been putting off that you're going to get to in the next little bit?
My taxes.
That stuff's important. Yeah, it's coming up to tax season.
Oh my gosh. It's mainly just like, the things I neglect are like just basic life, like organization. Things, when I'm in camp, I'm really organized with my schedule and training and recovery, like all of that is on point. It's just like the daily, like, okay, we gotta, just even like financial planning or anything like that. Like that's some of the stuff that I neglect. So that's probably something that, the next 2 weeks I'll probably focus on a little bit more and then um get right back into a camp at some point.
Do you have an accountant do your taxes or do you do them yourself?
Yeah, I have an accountant.
I was going to say,
And
that's
he
pretty
does
brave to do
all
it on
of,
your own. I have an
for the
accountant,
most
just
part,
so
yeah,
everyone knows. Yeah.
everything. No, he's amazing. He's helped me a lot. So um I send all my stuff to him and we get it done. But we had because I was in camp like right as we were getting ready to file. So we'll get it done.
There we go. And we get these interviews done. Maycee, thank you so much. If there's anyone you want to thank before we get out of here, any sponsors, any social media you want to plug, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, I mean, I have a great team support system. Obviously, I have Team Monster Energy, Kershaw Knives, First Form supplements and apparel. Um, I have amazing sponsors, and I think that they're the best. Um, I honestly couldn't do training camp without them because it's much easier when being able to cover costs of recovery. So, super blessed, super thankful, and yeah.